let's talk about that Trump soundbite where he was talking about how he'd view the primary campaigns against people who stand in the way of his nominees. Two of them back in the news today. RFK Jr. on Capitol Hill trying to make nice with the senators who will have the say over whether he makes it as HHS secretary. Pete Hegseth still out there doing the same. Unclear on both of them as of today what their fate will be. But there was a wave of attacks against RFK Jr. over the past few days. It started last Thursday or Friday, saying his counsel, his lawyer, filed a lawsuit trying to get rid of the polio vaccine and that these two are close. And all these media are like, RFK Jr. wants to get rid of the polio vaccine, which unlike the COVID quote vaccine is a real vaccine. Like you take it and you don't get polio. And it was just absolutely a smear campaign. We actually looked into it and made contact with the lawyer. The lawyer tried to get rid of, he challenged one of the many polio vaccines, one strain of it. Did not say, let's get rid of all the others because it had potentially cancerous cells in it and there hadn't been tested against a control group and it had not gone through the rigorous testing that vaccines should go through. So he said that one is problematic, that you would never know that if you looked at what the media did. And I'll give you a couple of examples of the headlines. New York Times, Kennedy's lawyer has asked the FDA to revoke approval of the polio vaccine. New York Times, McConnell defends polio vaccine, an apparent warning to Kennedy. Now Kennedy wants to get rid of the polio vaccine. WAPO, RFK Jr. ally filed petition to revoke FDA approval for polio vaccine. The New Republic, RFK Jr.'s lawyer exposed trying to abolish polio vaccine. NBC, backlash grows over RFKJ's lawyer asking FDA to revoke approval of polio vaccine. This is just wrong, Mark Halperin. And, it doesn't take that much effort to do what we did, which is, did he really do that? It took us about 5 minutes to realize, no, he didn't.
Well, in addition, as you also pointed out, it's not Bobby Kennedy. It's his lawyer, one of his many lawyers. I find that they're so interesting in the media now, what I call the dominant media. Some of the coverage is reminiscent of the way Donald Trump's been covered for 7 years, tendentiously hostile. Some of it's actually as favorable as anything he's ever gotten. I think the fate of the nominees, including Bobby Kennedy, including Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard, will be on how well they do when January hearings come. It'll also be on whether there's any new revelations about them. But I think for Team Trump, these kinds of stories are actually beneficial because in the end they are debunked. And once again, even though the press is being nice some of the time to Trump, nicer, they're able to use that to say, look how unfair this is. Nothing rallies MAGA and many of the Republican senators more around the Trump nominees than attacks from the media that they consider to be unfair. So I would say that round of stories probably helped Bobby Kennedy because now the focus isn't, is Bobby Kennedy right on abortion or is he right on this or that? It's he's under siege from the media. We got to support him.
And one thing you know about Bobby Kennedy, having interviewed him many times, is he's extremely smart. And he's a litigator. He spent a lifetime as a lawyer pursuing these causes. He will be so ready on this and any other empty attacks. He will slice and dice with the best of them. He's been under attack for all of his adult life. So Dan, last time you guys were on, I believe it was you who said you think that he may get some Dem support because he is a Democrat and he did have so much support in his own presidential run. Do you still think that? And do you think he's going to have trouble getting through?
I still believe it very much. Megyn, one of the things we heard all fall that gave me kind of confidence in saying that I thought Trump was going to win is the number of people who would come on our show and say, I'm a Democrat. I've left the party because of how it treated RFK, and I am with Trump because RFK is with Trump. And if we're going to win national elections again and get the Senate back, we have got to find a way to win both RFK and his voters and bring them back into the party. And I think there will be some Democrats that will vote for him. I think that his biggest threat really is from the right. I think the fact that, as you said, he is a Democrat, his views on choice, his views on the role of government in healthcare are closer to our party. In fact, they're pretty aligned with our party, and less the Republican Party. And so I think he's going to have to answer those questions and give comfort to some people on the right. Certainly not all Democrats will vote for RFK, but I do believe there will be more than one or two that will vote for him, and they should.
Do you know how mind-blowing this is, by the way? Just stop and think about this. Donald Trump, a Republican, has appointed a Kennedy who was primarying Biden just, 12 months ago for the Democratic nomination, has been put into the cabinet where he will get, by and large, Republican votes. This is mind-blowing if you think about where we are in terms of which party is more inclusive. Bobby Kennedy, a part of the Kennedy family who was literally fighting for the Democratic nomination, is going to be in the cabinet of Donald Trump. Secondly, I think the
and Tulsi, by the way, Tulsi was fighting for the DEM nomination just a few years ago. Go ahead.
That's right, exactly. She was primarying Biden for it. But you also go back to the first how you started this conversation between the media story with ABC settling for $15 million with Donald Trump and the lies that they're telling about Bobby Kennedy and vaccines. The bottom line is this: the media that supposedly dies in darkness and hates the spread of misinformation is just showing you why it's a dying industry. They continue to spread misinformation and lies. This is why we showed on the morning meeting the other day, exclusive polling from Signal. And when you look at where people are getting their news, it's very, very interesting. I posted this on Instagram. Like, if you are getting your news from newspapers or from national media, from like ABC, CBS, NBC, you voted for Harris. If you're on YouTube or streaming, you're voting for Trump. We're the party of the future. We're more inclusive. They are part of a dying industry and legacy.
Megyn, can I say one other thing about
reporting out today that suggests that? Go ahead, Mark. That suggests
one other thing about Bobby Kennedy. We've heard for months, including today on the morning meeting, from parents, lots of moms, who really believe in Make America Healthy Again. And they're so passionate about it. And they understand not everything you hear about Bobby Kennedy is true, and there may be things they don't like about him. But of all the people Donald Trump is trying to bring into the government, even more than Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy from the outside, Bobby Kennedy has the potential to revolutionize America with that agenda for drugs and food and the health of our children, wellness. It's a huge, all these things are huge problems in America. They unite Sanders supporters and Trump supporters, suburban parents, urban parents. These are massive issues. And just from talking about them during the transition and the campaign, Bobby Kennedy, I would argue, has done more to elevate these issues than anyone ever has, including Michelle Obama, who talked about some of them, but not in the fundamental way of going after corporate interests. And so I'll be curious to see if he pursues it, but that's what I think could win him some Democratic votes, because they're such fundamental issues for their constituents.
Think about how Republicans have fared with women, right? This is an issue that can transcend party, bring more women to the Republican Party, because they're concerned about what their children are eating, what they're eating. They are, in many cases, the people who are the providers for a family. And so women are at the forefront of this issue. And I think that what RFK and what Donald Trump are doing, exposing the NIH, the CDC, the FDA, in what we had thought was eating healthy, is going to be monumental, both in terms of our longevity and our wellness as a country, but I think also politically.
I just think the time is ripe, right? We had the opioid crisis, where we realized that our federal government officials are not protecting us. In fact, they're in bed with Big Pharma to pad their own pockets as individuals and otherwise, and they don't give a damn about the rest of us. And then we had COVID, which reinforced all of that. And then we had just the explosion of, the MAHA beginnings, whether it was Casey Means and her brother Callie Means. But that interview they gave on Tucker went everywhere. They came here too. It was big. And then within days, they were next to RFK endorsing Trump. And it was just, boom, we were off to the races. His choice of Nicole Shanahan, who's big into these issues, as his running mate. Like, I don't know if it was all intentional. He came on here many times and said this was one of his big issues. But he's also very big on some other issues, like the military-industrial complex. But this was the one that hit, and he was smart enough to exploit it and to sell it to Trump as something that could actually help. Trump embraced it, really ran on it, and now it cannot be one of those things that he discards. And indeed, Dan, yesterday, Trump was not discarding it. He was saying, he thinks that Bobby Kennedy will be great on these issues and was saying on pesticides, for an example, he said he claimed Europe doesn't use any. That's not true, but they use far, far fewer than we use, far fewer. And he was asked about the link between autism and vaccines, and Trump said, I don't know about that, but we want to study it. And what we really want to look at is things like vaccines, toxins. That's been RFKJ's big thing his entire life. Too many toxins in the environment, and it's making us and, yes, our children sick.
Yeah, Megyn, you hit something too when you said this goes back to kind of COVID. One of the problems for the Democratic Party is we have kind of tried to shut down debate on a lot of stuff when people have questioned things. And we've said, oh, the experts, the scientists, like anyone who says, you know, that you shouldn't wear a mask, anyone that says maybe the kids should be back in school, anyone who says, you know, maybe 6 feet isn't the right number. We tried to shut it down, shame them. You're an idiot. You know, how could you not follow science? One of the things that RFK has done is raised questions that parents have themselves. I mean, you said it, pesticides, food, the obesity with children. The fact that we are defending the status quo in an era when people are so against, they're so upset, they're frustrated, they feel like their voices aren't heard. It frustrates me as a Democrat that Trump and the Republican Party have owned now and taken over, and they are seen as a party that is asking questions, is probing, is willing to change. I'd rather be them than us right now.
For those of us who have been holding our breath for the past several months, we can finally exhale in the wake of this presidential election, right? Work can finally be done on the major issues that this country's facing, and one of the most significant is our national debt. Look, the fact is our nation's broke, and that debt is a house of cards that cannot be quickly dismantled by anyone. So the strategy remains the same when it comes to your investments. You might want to diversify your savings. Virtually all the experts say that's a good idea. This is why I want to tell you about Birch Gold. So many things are out of our control and out of our president's control that it really can be important to have a safe haven for your savings. Birch Gold Group can help you if you would like to convert all or part of an IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold, which is like a hedging of the bets. And the best news is it does not cost you 1 cent out of pocket. You just text MK to 989898 and you get your free info kit. And plus right now you will receive a free 1 ounce Silver Eagle for every $5,000 purchased Silver Eagle coin. Protect your savings with Birch Gold. Text MK to 989898 and claim your eligibility for free silver today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.